verifying that the sine times the quantity cosecant minus sine is equal to cosine squared. Now the weaponry that you have when you're verifying trigonometric identities is you have your Courtney-Pierce and you have all the math that you ever learned, which hopefully for you is quite a bit. If you haven't learned anything in Algebra 1 or in Algebra Trig, then you don't have any weapons. Okay? And you're just going to be sitting there. But what I see when I look at this problem, since I did learn something in Algebra 1 and I have learned stuff in Algebra Trig, is that the first thing I see when I look at this is distributive property. Because it looks just like that type of Algebra 1 question, with a monomial on the outside and a binomial or larger on the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to distribute in this type of situation. You don't have to. It doesn't always work. It's not always the best practice, but it's just an idea. Okay? So I'm going to take sine times cosecant minus sine times sine. Sine times cosecant. Cosecant is, according to your Courtney-Pierce, 1 over sine. Sine times sine is sine squared. Then, if we're going to take sine times 1 over sine, that is 1. So at this point, I'm sitting at 1 minus sine squared, and that has to equal cosine squared, which looks good to me because I've seen something like that before. From here, there is a ton of different ways you can go to finish. You can't stop there and say, yep, seen that before. Check mark, move on. Doesn't work that way. Okay? Because some people will stop there and say, I don't know what to do. Move on, check mark. And then other people will say, yep, I know what that is exactly. Check mark, move on. I got to be able to tell the difference between those two types of people. So what I did here was I went ahead and added the sine squared to the other side, a move you cannot do in pre-calculus. And I get this. And then sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. There's your verification of your trigonometric identity. In pre-calc, you would have just said 1 minus sine squared is equal to cosine squared and called it a cosine squared trig identity. Okay, so there's 1 in the books. You have to start to develop thought process. Let's try another one so we can learn another strategy. Cosine squared over 1 minus sine equals 1 plus sine. Remember, our goal is to get both sides to look equal. And I have a fraction on one side and not a fraction on the other. Now, the way I'm going to do this is completely not a pre-calc way. Andrew, I can show you a pre-calc way if you can't get it at the end, if you're interested. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 1 minus sine, multiplying by the denominator to eliminate the fraction. So whenever you want to get rid of a fraction, simply multiply by the denominator. But everything's got to be multiplied by the denominator. Both sides, whatever. So on the left side, that's going to cancel and leave me with cosine squared. On the right side, you have to FOIL 1 plus sine and 1 minus sine. Those are conjugates of each other. There's a blast from the past. Conjugate. And when you multiply conjugates, you don't have to do FOIL, you just do full, if you remember. And so we only have to do the ones and the signs. 1 times 1 and sine times negative sine, which is 1 minus sine squared. Which again, that looks very familiar. I'm going to add the sine squared over to the other side. And cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. So the two things that I want you to take out of these first two problems is being able to distribute, and this one where we're getting rid of the fraction. The rest of this stuff at the bottom is just coming up with an identity and stuff you already know.